Yay. We have Mike Milner, a financial management consultant, data analyst professional, and content developer whose focus has been improving operational efficiency. And he has helped many medium to large size businesses cut costs and increase their bottom line using optimal technologies. He holds an MBA in finance from Drexel University. Next to Mr. Mike, we have Sarah Fowler, who is a 9 through 12 math specialist in Pinellas County Schools. She supervises, and listen to this, all high school math for the district. So let's say that again, all sisters, all high school math, right? Making curriculum decisions that support teachers, students, families, and administrators. And she holds a Master's of Education and degree in secondary math and curriculum and instruction. So Ms. Sarah Fowler. Last but not least, we have JerJuan Green, a senior instructional support specialist at the St. Pete Gibbs Campus, St. Pete College Gibbs Campus, who has 15 plus years in the field of education, and his field work includes working at the Kennedy Space Center alongside NASA engineers. Let me say that again, NASA engineers right here in St. Petersburg, Florida. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree in electrical engineering from the one and the only Florida A&M. And so the only reason I could do that is, again, my name is Erica Hardison. I am a Rattler, and I hold a degree in mathematical sciences from Tampa. So we're going to go ahead and get started because we are here to discuss not only the present day technological advances of math, but where it came from, its roots in Black history, and how we can reconnect to it. So the first question that I'm going to pose to our panelists today is, what is Afrofuturism to you, and how do you see its application in your day?
All right, so I think the panel all decided that we were going to split this one up, and I was going to jump on it first. Definition. We're starting to thank everyone. I thank everyone for the opportunity of being here today. For all of those in our streaming audience, thank everyone for the opportunity of allowing us in your house or in your cars or wherever you may be streaming this August panel. We'd like to thank the entire institution that put together the 2023 Afrofuturism Festival and Bridges being there. Yeah. We're bringing things together. Synthesis is where it begins. Is that right? Yeah. And it all begins with one. I remember studying the Descartesian or the coordinate plane in Pinellas County Schools. I'm a Pinellas County School graduate. And everything began at the point of origin. You couldn't move. You couldn't determine longitude or latitude. You couldn't move in any direction on a two-dimensional plane unless you began at the point of origin. So when you solve for slope and y-intercept, you're solving for the point of origin, right? Y equals mx plus b. The point of origin for humanity, the first people to ever think, and the first people to ever have a future were African people. Since African people were the first people to ever grace the earth with their feet, then African people were the first people to ever have a concept of future, even when future just meant tomorrow. So Afrofuturism is plugging back into the source, and that source being African being. The first people to think were African people. The first people to question were African people. I was just posting the other day on my social media site, and please don't let me be too verse. But 30 seconds. Yes, just posting the other day that the first woman to ever receive a love note was an African. The first woman to ever hear the words "you're beautiful" was an African woman. and the first people to ever conceptualize the idea of place and space in a future place and space were African people. But Afrofuturism as a genre is the way African people navigate the world that they will come into. Understand that world, project that world, imagine that world, and project imagination on the world as the first people to ever imagine. So that, in a nutshell, is Afrofuturism.
All right. Really find out how you follow it. Go ahead, go ahead.
So this is. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, JGM, for inviting me and putting this Afrofuturism together. I like you. I really think a lot of us learn everything in the home first. So when I think about Afrofuturism, I think about my parents playing jazz or taking me to art museums and creating curiosity, like an ongoing curiosity that, and a lifelong learning kind of mentality, so that we really just never stop. And that's not just only to, we don't stop creating, but we also continue healing or seeking out, answers or different pathways, especially ways to unify us as well. That's what I think about, along with all of the art and music. I mean, my brother was a huge Sun-Ra fan, so it's, there's a lot of different tentacles that this takes.
To me, Afrofuturism represents creating your own reality. You be able to look at our positions in the past. That's what we are creating. In order to do that, you need to be able to create your own reality. So that's what we have been able to do together. And you have to be able to engage with thoughts. Like one thing I don't like about current technology, it seems to be a distraction from this engagement. So you have to find ways, because really you're more creative away from cell phones, tablets, computers as a child. So I think one aspect of the children, you need to find a way to continue to put them engage their mind and their thought and their imagination for the moves creative with an idea of that.
For me, we can't go forward and look to the future until we know where we come from. So just knowing the creativity that our people have brought to the forefront, whether it be math, science, music, art, we just need to know where that comes from. I know just as a grown woman, finding out, Black females have something to do with putting the first man, out there, and I'm 40-some years old. I'm like, why did I know that? Why, when I was in high school, why did I know these women existed? Because I could have gone a different path. I mean, math and science was always my passion, right? I was math major, minor in physics when I was in college, and that right there could have driven me to be more and do more, right? But we know God puts us in places and has a purpose for us. So my purpose, I know I'm an educator, but I want to educate our future to let them know they can do more and be more. So when you say technology kind of hinders that, I do see that, because we need to make sure they know the purpose of what this technology is all about, so we can move forward in the future and do it great.
For me, I'll take a different approach. I would just say Afrofuturism for me would be embodied in myself. Just to give you a quick background, I was raised right in this neighborhood, Child's Park neighborhood. Used to come in all the time and all that kind of good stuff. And not everything was sports related. I most definitely thought that I was gonna be playing in the NBA one day when I was coming out here. But what I love to tell people is that you got somebody that came from this neighborhood that went on to work at Kennedy Space Center with some of the smartest brains in the world. And I tell people all the time too, they ask about being a minority out there at Kennedy Space or at NASA. And I tell them that black, white, all that, we all was minorities out there. What they did not look at skin color out there, they want to know your mind.
Yeah.
And so if you was able to be on that level and be able to do what they was doing, they came and got you. And that's one of the reasons why I came back to community, because yeah, I'm happy about what I've been able to accomplish, but I want to be able to put that spark in another child for they to be able to come back and say, I didn't just work at Kennedy Space Center, I was up in the shuttle. I got in the shuttle. I made this certain part that we went on the International Space Station that I've been in. So that's for me, that's what I envision when they talk about Afrofuturism. It's coming back, instilling those kind of things and letting them know you got people that look just like you can make it there. So there's no excuse for you. Go ahead and reach for the stars.
Love it.
So we've heard some about the past, right? We've seen that there are people who come from right here in Childs Park, South St. Pete, right? Who have gone on to be professors, worked in the NASA, and I don't want to mess up, worked at the Kennedy Space Station, and who actually were inventors. We've heard about the curiosity that is needed to help a child develop into that, right? And we've also heard about we need to see people who look like us, right? And so my next question is more so like, as we think to the future, and we look back into our past, what were some of the things that helped you discover the Black roots of mathematics? If anybody can answer, we're gonna try and keep these to less than a minute. We'll give you a minute to think about it, but if anybody wants to.
I mean, for me, it was definitely the letter, you know, it's about that's a letter. Definitely an African spiritual system, you know. So like, say for instance, looking at words, you know, they have names, Latin Greek roots, but have primarily Latin, like word mathematics. But what I see is Maya and Havati. So, you know, Maya is law, order, government. That is, you know, for anybody medical, it was blood system, life, you know, order of blood. So we put the two together, we talk about law, order, whatever. Life. That's truly mathematics, African standard.
Right. For sure. So, I'll let you go in 1 second, but I just want to kind of expound on what you said is order and life and having and being centered in it. Like a lot of time, you know, as a math teacher and as a math person, you know, people don't understand that order, right? And I tell people, like, math is the language of the world. Because just like JerJuan said, is that it doesn't matter what language you speak, the language of math doesn't change. And so it's the language of the universe, and we can speak across nations with mathematics. And so thank you, Brother Mike, for touching that, going back to that root, that spiritual and then go ahead.
So for me, what I think would spark my the interest in when it came to math and stuff like that is that from my own research, I learned that, you know, like the brother was saying before, you had mathematics that was on the pyramids with the hieroglyphics. That goes back that far. Now, in my math book, as I was learning, you know, a lot of these formulas are named after, like you said, the Greek and the Latin, Pythagorean theorem and stuff of that nature. And I'm looking at that and I'm seeing the time frame that they're saying that this is going from 18 this to something that. And I'm going, but from my research, they say math was on the pyramids and hieroglyphics 3,000 and 4,000 years even before the Pythagorean theorem was even talked about. So for me, in my books that I've all learned from school, they tell me this is the person that I should, credit for this right here. But I'm going from my own research. This looks like they might have had this figured out 3,000 and 4,000 years before that. And so for me, that's what made me go, you know what? There's something about this. Let me see what it is about this. And like I said, I always play with numbers. I always love numbers. So that just brought me in further to bring it into a personal thing. Once I'm seeing it's not just Pythagorean and all those people. It goes even back to our kings and queens back in the pyramid days.
Piggyback off of that, when you're sitting in history classes, when I was sitting in there as a high school student or, young age, they separated, we didn't learn about Africa. We had Egypt, but in my sense, Egypt, how it was taught to us, it was something totally separate. And so I remember going home and I was like, hey, this, and I was like, yeah, African, that's, we feel, I said, African. What are you talking about? And she said, let me show you your history. She said, where's Egypt located? It is in the African continent, right? This is the country of Africa right here. It's a country. So when you're looking at pyramids and the calendars and all that stuff and all that mathematics that was sitting there that they created, that's from us. That's the kings and queens, the princesses. And then also through music. Yes. Music is math to me all day. And and the love of music that I had, I played in the band. I played the flute, the piccolo, the sax, and all of that, learning those notes and all of that, that's music to my ears, right? And that's mathematics to my ears as well. So through history, through playing music, through finding, who we are and where we are in life because of where we come from, that is where I see math everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that for me, it also goes back to pyramids and learning about it at a young age. But in so many ways for me, it's just being at home with my dad, like building a bookshelf or, doing something really practical. I remember kind of really loving, even now, what makes me like math is practical application of it. Or, you are working with numbers to have something tangible, to associate with that number. And, of course, music also. And, it's a big part of my, my past and my history. So that's where it is.
I tell people all the time, I did not fall in love with language. I jumped with the language. I absolutely love language, and I can't remember a time when I did. And to the detriment of people who grew up in my home who wanted me to shut up. Language led me to my appreciation for math. And I'm a polyglot, so foreign language led me to my appreciation for math. I grew up in an Islamic household, and one of the things we had to do was learn how to read Quran in Arabic. So when I read Al-Tini wa Zaytuni wa Turi Sinini wa Khala Baladi Lamin, Nakhalaqa insani fil asmi taqwim. What that means in Arabic, the last part, Nakhalaqa insani fil asmi taqwim. And we have made humanity in the most beautiful of forms. This is a mathematics statement. They're saying that you have symmetry. What does symmetry mean? They say that you have balance and order, and that balance and order corresponds with the order of the universe. So that's what made me fall in love with mathematics, was to know that I am math personified. And that humanity is mathematics personified. And when I was able to see that, I didn't see addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. I saw biology. I saw history, I saw life, I saw language. And that's what resonated with me to make me fall in love with both African roots, being an African person, and mathematics, being the possession of African youth.
Alright. So.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, we're in business, although I don't really think I need this microphone, but for all those people out in the world that may not be able to hear my voice up close to the field advantage, we're gonna use the microphone. So, we get started upon like, you know, where math comes from, how we connect with math, right? What are some ways, because I know Brother Donnie mentioned, you know, just symmetry. I'd like, if you can, and you will, to kind of explain to the people in the audience, like, what are some everyday examples of mathematics? So I am avid gardener and grower, so I see it like throughout nature, and I'm just gonna give a brief example. Right? So when we look at a sunflower, right? And the symmetry in a sunflower and all the seeds that everybody loves to eat, there are mathematical equations that describe how those seeds are represented and how when we think about other things, and I don't want to say too much because I want to give you all the opportunity, but just if you can, we've talked about slopes and, you know, being at the origin being in Africa. But I want the audience, and we have some young people in the audience, and I see, you know, a great example. Someone has a super fly hat on with a super fly hairdo, and that is all mathematical to me. And unfortunately, some people can't see it. I look at the braid in Tara's hair. And all of that is mathematics to me. So if we could kind of connect that,
So I thought I heard something. I heard something. One of the things that I think that we as adults need to stop doing is and I say it's coming from the adults because I hear it coming from the students. I don't need math. I don't need math. I'm not going to use that. And
Way outside.
and let me tell you up front right now how it is as adults that we pass that on to our students is a bad habit. One of the things is, let's start off by saying, and like I said, hurting feelings. There's no reason for you paying somebody to do your 1040 easy. There's no reason for you to be paying somebody to all that hard money on your return. You should be having somebody to do that. Because if you look at that form, it's telling you step 1A, put this. Step 2, take what's in A, put it on B, and add that together. There's no way we should be having these people doing that at these tax places for it, especially if it's a 1040 easy. Now, I understand if you got a little bit more business and things that nature you're involved with, and there's no reason to going over that with someone else. But like I said, 1040 easy, we should not be having somebody doing this. Another one too, I tell the students all the time when they say they don't use it, hey, when you go into shopping somewhere, you're going to buy you a new pair of shoes or whatnot. And it's telling you got a coupon, you got taxes, and you got something else. You should be able to tell that computer up at the register what it's going to cost before you get there. You should know what you do. You got enough in your pocket or your bank account to be able to pay for that before you get there. So that notion of I won't use math, I don't need it. I tell people all the time, if you don't use math, you're going to pay somebody to use it. So let's get that notion out. Let's start being able to do that for our students so we can become independent. And that's on a smaller scale. That's an everyday scale that you were speaking on. And then from that, we can start building upon that and start making even bigger things like building shuttles at the Kennedy Space Center.
Completely agree. I hear that in every aspect of when I go and visit high schools and when am I ever going to use this? You critical think, don't you? You problem solve, don't you? That's mathematics all day. That's mathematics all day. You critically thinking about, even if you're thinking about the simple things, what am I going to wake up and wear for the next day? You know, you're critical thinking, you're problem solving, all of that, but you thinking you're putting together an equation or not, you are. Your life is an equation, right? It is an equation, you're problem solving. So I have to tell students all the time, you use math just to get up this morning, to put your clothes on, to get where you need to get to here, you use mathematics. So distance, from traveling from your house to school, you use mathematics. So it's around you, it's not going anywhere. Now, can it be difficult at times? It can be, but that's what we have to let students know. And I let my teachers know this too. It's okay for you to make errors and mistakes in mathematics. Because how else are you gonna learn if you don't make mistakes and you don't have error? So we have to get in the notion with our kids, and that's all kids. I'm not just talking about our babies, but all kids, because that's why they say I hate math, because somebody along the way penalized them for making mistakes and errors in mathematics instead of celebrating that for them. And so we try to correct wrongs when we get to high school, but sometimes it can be a little difficult, but we let them know it's okay. You made a mistake. Don't get bent out of shape. This is how we learn.
Yeah, I would like to just kind of add on what you both said, but just to add, the earlier that a parent engages a child or children in math is very important. Can't wait. Like trying to, we always in the catch up. We don't take the initiative. We think the school system is going to do it. You know, somebody else. It's like we have to do it. And even if it's not your child, it could be your niece, your nephew. It could be your good friend's child. If you're good at something, you should help. You know, that would bring us back to like that African village. You know, speaking about Africa, that's what we should be. We should be a village unity and teach one. What is that? Teach one. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I say.
Well, likewise, math is everywhere we go. But what always gets to me is how you can count things, just like she was, Sarah was saying, as far as horticulture and permaculture, permaculture, trying to learn and trying to observe the patterns in the yard and see how, you know, how and where the sun falls and where I should plant and where the rain falls and all of that. But I personally am really into being more qualitative data. And I love all these studies that just pick two areas and kind of, you know, find something about it. So in a lot of Black neighborhoods, for example, you know, there are fewer trees. And when there's fewer trees, there's usually more concrete, and then there's also more hospital visits. I love that in this community. But on the flip side, also other things that really excite me are being able to measure things like love or compassion or shame. Those things really can be quantifiable.
So in my real life, I'm a professor at the University of South Florida. This is what I do. And I try to bring into my experience everything that comes from my experience. And hip hop has an indelible print on my being. I grew up in the hip hop era. And I remember listening to Erica Badu's Mama's Gone, when she says, I remember how I felt going with my mother to the washateria. I remember how I felt the day I first started my period. I remember there was school one day I learned I was inferior. Water in my cereal. Again, this is language, this is art, this is rhetoric, this is composition. But many of us have the relationship that we have with mathematics because it's a relationship, like our sister said, that's born and bred on trauma. When did you go and realize that you couldn't think? And who gave you that mind to tell you that you couldn't think? This is how we combat the idea that we don't need math. You understand every day that you need math when you realize that the light bill got cut, or water lights got cut off because nobody paid the bill. When you signed the piece for the extension, you knew that you had to pay a portion now and a portion later. When you laid away for those Jordans, you knew you had to lay away a portion now and a portion later. But power is the ability to define phenomena. So like our amazing educators have said, let's define mistakes as success. And when you do that, people will understand not only do I need math, I need to struggle because struggle is where I find my perfection. So I think it's the manner in which we teach and tell people how math is integrated in their lives that we can change the way we view and see and relate to mathematics.
I'm gonna borrow this thing. I'm gonna borrow this mic because I thought I was loud, right? Till I met Brother Diamond, right? So I want to bring something back to Tara. Tara said, we should expect mistakes, right? And those of you who know me know one of my favorite sayings is that I am a recovering perfectionist. And what that means is, please grant me grace. And I'm going to grant you grace only because I know I need it more than you, right? So when we talk about mistakes, when we talk about how that kind of manifests itself, what comes out of that? What they say, where there is no struggle, there is no progress.
Yes.
So if you're not struggling, we're not progressing. And it kind of brings me back to something that I had in my classroom. I used to have a sign. People used to like, what? Here's used to read it. My mom, like, what was it? And it said, mistakes are expected, inspected, and respected. So your mistake, you can't, I'm not laughing at your mistake because we're going to inspect that, right? We expect to make mistakes so that we can build a better future. So this brings me to my next question. When we talk about Afrofuturism and the tools that have now been developed through mathematics, through creative thinking, through people's curiosity, can you think of a tool that you may have used or may have been recently developed that you think is either giving you or going to give us a brighter future? Right? And while they are speaking, since I asked the question, or while they're thinking, I'm going to speak, right? Because there is a tool, and I often say this, there's a tool that is free and that we all have the power to give. And one of the tool that I always think of is, I would say my parents, the best tool they ever gave me was confidence. Because through that, I was able to struggle through things. I knew it wasn't the end, and I say confidence, but that's support. So that is kind of what I call an emotional inheritance, right? An emotional tool that I would equip with, right? But in terms of a physical tool, which I don't see very much of, because I have a 14-year-old daughter who's in school, and I look for these things every day, but they seem to be gone. But Brother Don has brought them back to life because it's books, an actual physical book. And so this was the tool that helped solidify my mathematical future. I was always able to have a reference, a guide, when there wasn't someone that I could have a back and forth dialogue with. So what kind of tool? When I think of the other tool that's my favorite, she's sitting right outside. Little brave Prius, because she has helped me in so many ways. The mathematics have made it possible to have an electric battery and still run on gas. Oh my goodness. Every time I look at those gas prices or look at those gas lines, and then I look at my little gas ticker on my phone, because I don't remember what right now. I say, oh, I'm so thankful I'm not in that line. And this gas is lasting me this long. So that was a tool that helped you. But just tools, emotional tools that help you, or physical tools in the real world that, and my physical tool, my pretty Priya, did not exist when I was, we're not gonna go that far back, but when I would have first started riding, there were no electric cars.